I love the Resident Evil 3 remake. I saw tons of my favorite creators dunking on how short it was, how it was incomplete and didn't feature original features or areas from the original game. It was short and definitely not worth $60. I bought it for $20. I played it 6 months later. I didn't have the background context from the original game to compare it to. For me, it was a brief but fun blast through Raccoon City. It was beautiful. It ran well, it played well, and most importantly, to me, it had forward momentum that kept me going, and I never wanted to put the controller down. Why the hell am I bringing up Resident Evil 3 when this is supposed to be a Silent Hill 2 video? Silent Hill 2 Remake is on its way. It's being made by Bloober Team, and based on what I've seen online, I'm the only person in the world who likes their games. I'm going to take a stab at it that I'll like the remake as well. This time, though, I wanted the context. I want to know how it stacks up to the original game. Unlike other people, however, I won't have eyes clouded by nostalgia. Hopefully, anyways. I've already softened my views on Crisis Core in just a few months since playing it, so maybe I'm a liar. This is my first time playing this game. At the end of 2022, I decided to play a game originally released in 2001. How should I go about this, though? I've heard terrible things about the PS3 remaster, so that's out. I booted up the PS2 version and, yeah, nah, that ain't happening. I'm sure I could still enjoy it by the glow of an old CRT, but I don't own one, and even if I did, capturing off that feed would lead to an icky-looking video. I don't have an elaborate capture setup, so I got my perfectly legal copy of the PC version, wink wink, nudge nudge, say no more. No, seriously, it's abandonware at this point. Just search it up and you'll find it. And then I looked into modding it. As it turns out, some brilliant bastards have already made a Silent Hill 2 remaster. It's called Silent Hill Enhanced Edition. This cleans up the game to a crispy HD presentation and adds widescreen support. The full 9 yards. I wanted to play the original game, but looking at the PS2 footage on my PC monitor, it's rough. The Enhanced Edition has cleaned everything up, but it still maintained the same artistic vision as best as I can imagine. So there you go. I got all the game modded up and ready to go. I feel like now is the right time just to say it. Come the hell on, Konami. I know you have to live up to the reputation of being the literal worst, but this is a game that already had a PC port. Sell it on good old games for $20 and I'll give you money and mod that. I'm not asking you to port some of the older games that live on PS3 or PS1 that would require a few bucks to port. You could drop the PC version on the store right now and the internet would rejoice, even in its existing rough state. The fans have already fixed it for you. But you don't want to do that, do you? You want the $70 from your new shiny remake, and you're willing to throw a classic that's an important part of your, gaming history into the waste bin. I guess it's fine. Instead, I'll give you $0. As far as this video, I didn't even know what I was going to do. Even now as I type this, I don't know what my real intent is. I just wanted to play this game, but I'm a newbie to the series. This will not be a complete story video like my Nier videos. Consider this a narration of my playthrough. I'll go over the moment-to-moment gameplay, not only what happens, but my thoughts as they happen. I'll discuss the story as I see it, but this game is a game with multiple endings. I only personally saw one. As such, even as someone who's beaten the game, I'm no expert, and this video can't be seen as thorough as I'm certain others have been. If you want my review of the game with no spoilers, in brief, it's a game from 2001. It's dated in some regards. The gameplay was not even cutting edge in its time. Is this game's reputation built entirely on nostalgia then? Absolutely not. It is definitely worth playing to this day. I would have likely done another playthrough with a guide to test out other endings if I hadn't just migrated to a new computer. Also, let it be noted that I forget every game I play doesn't have cloud saves. Steam has spoiled me. Rip my completion file. The sound design in this game is incredibly eerie to this day. I've never played a game that sounded like Silent Hill 2. Akira Yamaoka has attained legendary status based on his work on this series, and based on this singular title, it is my opinion that it is a reputation well earned. This is an older game made with more primitive technology, but it's propped up by brilliant ambiance. The art and the sound do so much heavy lifting to make this title incredibly memorable. Well, and the voice acting performances. That's definitely something I will feature heavily and talk about at length. I'm going to include most of the cutscenes in their entirety because trying to narrate the events contained therein does not do them justice. I may be able to recount the events of the story, but these cutscenes have a certain tone that needs to be experienced to be understood. The story is hard to talk about without spoilers. It's an incredibly personal story. It's simple. It's told you with little detail. This leads to a story that can give many different people many different ideas. How I interpret something might be different than how someone else interprets it. I personally prescribe to the death of the author approach. In Alan Wake, there was a moment where a song from Poets of the Fall comes on. It's called War. Now, if I read the lyrics on the page, I can have a pretty good idea of the original intent of the song. However, when I heard the chorus, I immediately thought of my wife and I, and our challenges of facing adulthood and later the challenges of parenting together. This song lived on my playlist for weeks. I don't care what the original lyrics meant to Poets of the Fall. Or should I say, while I'd be interested, they're less important to me than in the greater picture. To me, the song will ever represent my relationship with my wife in our continued pursuit to conquer the challenges life throws at us. I'm going to try and come to grips with my interpretation of events in this game, and they may differ from the perspective of others. I'm sure there are probably dev interviews and means of discovering what the exact intent of nearly every poignant scene was. If that is what you are interested in, then I definitely advise you check out the many other creators that have likely made content on this game. That isn't me trying to drive anyone away, but just merely trying to set expectations. I think the story has definitely contributed to its lasting appeal. I'm sure there are some that feel the way I feel about the near games about this game. Sometimes a game does something that redefines your expectations of what video games are capable of, and the fact that this game was released so long ago should not be forgotten. So yeah, if you're wondering if I recommend you play it, definitely do. Especially if you own a PC, because the enhanced edition is the tits. Plus the game can be found on the internet at an extremely discounted price if you follow my line of thinking. Plus, as a bonus, it's crazy old, so even your old library computer you're working on can run it. Huzzah! So before I press forward, per usual, I will acknowledge that this is a spoiler video. This will begin as an exasperatingly in-depth look at my moment-to-moment walkthrough. Eventually, I'll lighten up and let the story breathe a little, but I wanted people to feel my perspective as a new player to the series as I walk through the opening couple hours with blinders on. Actually, this is editor Shane. Coming in late to the show, I never really lighten up. I'm pretty much beat for beat for most of the game. I'm sorry, but there's some of you who have got to be into this. If you've already played and mastered this game, you might die of cringe as I make rookie mistakes or hate how I criticize the game that you think is flawless. Yell at me in the comments if you think this is so. Just remember that in the end, my conclusion will be that I highly recommend this experience in spite of the things I might be bitching about in a given moment. If you're watching and haven't played this title, perhaps watch for a while, and if I piqued your interest, then turn it off and take the necessary steps to acquire it for yourself. Although, if you were interested, you've likely made that decision by now. I've left the website for the enhanced edition in the description, and the directions for patching the game are so simple, even I figured it out.
I've been going to this high school for 7.5 years. I'm no dummy.
With that advisory out of the way, welcome to the town of Silent Hill.
Mary, could you really be in this town?
I don't know whose idea it was to start the game in a public bathroom, but that is a stroke of genius. Maybe Mary is by one of the urinals. She always loved those.
In my restless dreams, I see that town, Silent Hill. You promised you'd take me there again someday, but you never did. Well, I'm alone there now, in our special place, waiting for you.
I got a letter. The name on the envelope said, Mary. My wife's name. It's ridiculous. Couldn't possibly be true. That's what I keep telling myself. A dead person can't write a letter. Mary died of that damn disease 3 years ago. So then, why am I looking for her? Our special place. What could she mean? This whole town was our special place. Does she mean the park on the lake? We spent the whole day there. Just the two of us, staring at the water. Could Mary really be there? Is she really alive? Waiting for me?
James can find a map of the town in a nearby vehicle, and he proceeds on the only path he could travel. The overpass is blocked off, and the vibe is instantly dire. The gray and brown color palette gives you the feeling of general rust and decay. As you walk down the trail, the background audio drones at you. There are also rustling and barking noises in the distance. You're not in any danger here, but the environmental sounds won't let you get that feeling. In a well, you find your first save point in the form of a red piece of paper, or perhaps a diary? I don't know, man. You save at the red things. I'm like a couple minutes in and I'm already realizing how bad I am at this. Further along the path, it takes you into the graveyard.
Excuse me,
I'm sorry.
No, it's okay. I didn't mean to scare you. I'm kind of lost.
Lost?
Yeah, I'm looking for Silent Hill. Is this the right way?
Yeah. It's hard to see with this fog, but there's only the one road. You can't miss it.
Thanks.
But
Yes?
I think you'd better stay away. This town, there's something wrong with it. It's kind of hard to explain, but
Is it dangerous?
maybe. And And it's not just the fog either.
Okay,
It's...
I got it. I'll be careful.
I'm not lying.
No, I believe you. It's just... I guess I really don't care if it's dangerous or not. I'm going to town either way.
But why?
I'm looking for... someone.
Who is it?
Someone... very important to me. I'd do anything if I could be with her again.
Me too. I'm looking for my mama. I mean my mother. It's been so long since I've seen her. I thought my father and brother were here, but I can't find them either. I'm sorry. It's not your problem.
I hope you find them.
Yeah, you too.
I don't know who is more stilted in this conversation, James or Angela. It's gonna sound like I'm attacking the voice acting, but if I were to describe the voice acting as concisely as possible, the first descriptors that come to my head are stilted and uncanny. For some reason, I can't truly understand though. This is a work of magic that benefits the game in ways I can't possibly understand. The way everyone communicates is slightly dreamy in a way that troubles me. At first, I couldn't say if this was part of the original voice direction or just a happy accident. With more context under my belt, I'm certain this is a work of genius. I'm not the type of guy to try and read into backstories and do mini documentaries like some creators. I like to experience the games with only the game as context. I'll analyze some of those offbeat and strange conversations down the line, but for now, we'll progress with James. As he explores, he's followed by the sounds of the ambient noises around him, and almost always some kind of droning backing track. Sometimes it sounds like a cat walking on a piano, sometimes it's clanging noises, sometimes it's a noise that appears from the environment that ends up being nothing. The soundscape in this game is a character in and of itself. There are songs that play, a legitimate OST of sorts, but the bulk of the backing tracks would be more closely associated as just strange ambient noises. These noises, though, also make the songs hit harder when they come in for poignant moments. Enough of the music. Moving on. The fog is always obscuring the path forward. This game is long past an age of being cutting edge, but these features still manage to maintain a feeling of unease. Early on, James explores the town and has no means of defending himself or any general tools to defend himself. Only a photo of his deceased wife Mary and a note that is allegedly from her. He stumbles upon a scene that gives him pause. Now let me make this clear. At this point, I'm leaving my baby girl behind. I know she's dead. I don't have anything to be sorry for. James is a madman who follows behind this ominous creature. At the end of the path, you can make out distorted radio signals. This early enemy is very passive compared to the later creatures you'll encounter. As he leaves, he also picks up the possibly broken radio.
Oh yeah. this thing broken? What the? I'd better take it anyway. I might need it.
I love the details of James' bloody footprints as he left the scene of the beatdown. Back in this era of gaming, I would have been blown away by this. The radio is another diabolical use of audio. Henceforth, it will begin to spit static at you as an enemy nears. Now, if you ask me, radio static is already slightly creepy on its own. But when you know that that also signals the proximity of a creature that wants to harm you, it takes on an even more sinister tone. A poor soul can be found at the end of a cul-de-sac with a key to an apartment building on their person. Listen to these goddamn side effects from these things in the streets. The sound of these creatures was far more disturbing to me than their actual appearance. I learned very early on that attacking the creatures in the streets was not to my benefit. They do not drop items, and risking taking damage to them made the juice not worth the squeeze. The walk around town is filled with atmosphere, but it also reveals the limitations of in-game design for a game of its age. There are tons of doorways and paths that are simply closed off. This is something that will continue throughout the whole game. There are door textures, but not actual doors. Many of the buildings will become somewhat of a template that mirror one another. If a place looks unique or well-defined, that will be a likely destination for you. This isn't a real problem for me personally. I recall games from this era and even before, so I was accustomed to this. But someone more familiar with modern game design might find this something that stifles their desire to explore. However, due to the size of this city, those that do choose to be thorough will find that easy to accomplish. James found a key on a body, though. The path ends in front of an apartment complex, and the key works to gain entry. In front of the building, there's a trash chute. Garbage. No use for that. There are tons of small environmental details littered everywhere, and I felt myself dying a little inside every time James basically dismissed it with no real analysis. Now, I know this was a little way that the game's programmers indicated to you that the items you were analyzing were of no use to you mechanically, but it left me wanting for additional flavor. Gotta have that flavor text, baby. Inside the apartment building, James can explore individual dwellings. Many of the doors are locked or broken. Eventually, I learned that the map I found near the entry will display each door I checked. Those that opened, those that were unable to be entered, and those that I needed an item for entry. The hallways of this apartment can be very narrow, and I'm sure skilled players can easily navigate past foes in the halls. I am not a skilled player, however. I found it best just to take the enemies down with my 2x4 like Hacksaw Jim Duggan. In one of the rooms, I found a mannequin with a flashlight on its neck. Pretty creepy, right? Again, I was let down by James' observations of the mannequin parts strewn around the room. Now that he's armed with the flashlight, though, he is capable of properly exploring many of these darkened corners of the dilapidated building. I found a room with handgun bullets, and I had already found a room with a pistol in it. But even though I could see it, James couldn't find it in the darkness. Now I was armed with a handgun. But I was very persistent and continued to fight through the entire building with nothing more than a 2x4, since that had no ammo that I could expend. I did not start playing survival horror games until adulthood. My habits of hoarding items came from JRPGs in my youth. I still have several mega elixirs on my Final Fantasy III file, and I will take those to my death. I did not realize till later that I would have plenty of ammo throughout the duration of the game, and there was no need to be so miserly with it. I'm in the weeds now. I'll try and tighten my leash here. At the end of the hall, James spots a key through some bars. The key is promptly kicked back away by a child. You can't get access to that hall yet. Getting out of this building will require backtracking from room to room, floor to floor, until you've cleared out the whole apartment complex. If you kill all the creatures in the hallway in one go, you will not have to deal with them later. I wish I knew this at the time. I was still knocking enemies down and running past them at this point. Cool. Cool. Inside the room at the end of the hall, James finds a corpse with static playing on the TV. I had been to this room before I had the flashlight, and it was empty. In one of the rooms, there was a clock with a puzzle on it, but you need a tool to access the hands of the clock. James takes a key to room 202 and proceeds forward. Some of the settings in this game are clearly inspired by films. The moths everywhere in this place might help you put a finger on this one, if you feel me. Absolutely no way am I reaching into that hole in the wall, though. Again, this noise is completely off-putting. The sound in this game never stopped being completely abrasive to me, and I mean that in the most complimentary way I could mean it. At least we have a clock key now. I was playing on normal riddle difficulty, so I can only speak to what I experienced, but there was a note next to the corpse and a note on the side of the clock that says the scars from the past shall remove the nail that stops time. Across from the clock is essentially an exact guide to set the time to 9, 10, and 15 seconds. The harder part of the task was procuring the key to access the clock hands at this difficulty. I considered that I should have the puzzle difficulty on hard, but I was also afraid to do so because of my medical condition. You know, the dumb brain. Last thing I wanted was tons of footage with proof of my failures. This has quickly become a stream of consciousness. With the clock hands in the correct position, James can now shove the clock aside, revealing a hole in the wall and access to the adjacent apartment. The opening in the wall has allowed us access to the other side of the building where the little girl kicked the key. Excellent. You now have a new wing of the apartment complex to explore that looks absolutely identical to the first. So I proceeded with my strategy of attempting to open every door on every floor. The first room of consequence I was able to access led through this scene. I lack the descriptive prowess to clarify what the hell I just saw there. If I'm James, I'm right the fuck out of here. This is a video game though, so outside the closet he comes for further investigation. Inside the room, he finds a courtyard key, and further down at the end of the hall, he finds a fire escape key. In front of one door, I found some canned juice. All right, I'm with you on the fire escape key. I can imagine how I will use the courtyard key. Juice, my man? Some of the puzzle elements in this game will require some strange key items. The game will also feature some dream logic for its puzzle design, but that can be lampshaded by some of the story events later. For now, though, I was a bit taken aback by this nonsense. I have a ton of footage with me wandering around aimlessly in these similar looking halls. I was going down with the Titanic until I went for the Hail Mary and dropped the canned juice down the garbage chute on the second floor that seemed to be clogged up. Remember the trash outside? It's time to make a trip back. In the trash, James finds an old coin with a picture of a man on it and an old magazine featuring the story of a man named Walter Sullivan, who murdered someone named Billy Locane and his sister Miriam. Old Walter couldn't hack it and committed suicide in his cell. He jabbed his spoon into his neck. Spoonicide, huh? Textbook. The article continues that his neighbor said that he didn't seem like the type to do it, but days before his arrest, he spoke to Walter and he was uttering something about a monster trying to kill him. Forgive me, I did it, but it wasn't me. Okay, now, this is the interesting flavor I'm digging around in the trash for, James. Also, speaking of that neighbor, what kind of person do you think would do it if that guy isn't? Back inside the complex, inside room 101, James finds a body in the kitchen. You're more likely to instantly note the really gross sounds emanating from this room.
It wasn't me. I didn't do it.
Do what?
I didn't do anything. I swear. He was like this when I got here.
My name's James. James Sunderland.
Eddie.
Eddie. Who's that dead guy in the kitchen?
I didn't do it. I swear I didn't kill anybody.
You're not friends with that red pyramid thing.
Red pyramid thing? I don't know what you're talking about. Honest. But I did see some weird looking monsters. They scared the hell out of me, so I ran in here.
Well, I guess this place isn't too safe either. What happened here anyway?
I told you, I don't know. I'm not even from this town. I just...
You too, huh? Something just brought you here, right?
Yeah, you could say that.
Well, whatever it is, I think you better get out of here soon.
Yeah, you're right. What about you?
I'll leave as soon as I'm done here. Eddie, be careful.
James, you be careful too.
They're becoming more heavy-handed with the town brought you here stuff. I have more rambling to go before I get into too much of my thoughts on the actual story. I want you to go on this ride in the apartment complex with me, so you'll follow when I want to elaborate later. This room demonstrates something well for me. I enter. I can hear the sounds of a creature in the room. I can hear my radio going off, but the camera is facing James. I'm too close to the wall to center the camera at my back. I'm using the 3D directional controls because I did not grow up actually playing the tank controls, and my brain cannot process them. Many times in this game, you'll come up against foes with an unfortunate camera situation. James moves in a very cumbersome manner. Nothing works effortlessly. He takes forever to ready his weapon, whichever weapon that is. even worse with some of the later weapons, and he takes a lot of time to take a swing. There's a part of me that wants to complain about this. The other part of my brain sees two things very clearly. One, I am playing this game in a suboptimal fashion by using this control scheme. And two, these camera dynamics really ramp up the tension. As I stated earlier, the audio space for this game is its greatest strength. Hearing these creatures while leaving them unseen is far more unsettling than being able to approach them while in your sights. The other factor is that this game is not particularly challenging on the normal difficulty anyways. It's pretty clear to me that I'm no idiot savant. I'm just an idiot. I got damaged a lot in this game, but health drinks and first aid kits were plentiful. I also got significantly better at dodging the enemies, and it made me realize if I chose to do so, many of these enemies could simply be okey-doked. They designed much of this game to be filled with narrow corridors though, so trying to run through narrow choke points and dodging enemies while exploring seemed less than ideal rather than killing them and exploring freely. If you choose to kill everyone you see, you will be given generous amounts of ammo and health items to feed that task. If you choose to dodge your enemies and save your inventory, then those options are available to you as well. Just remember to run past people if you're outdoors and consider killing them when you're indoors as a general rule. All of this advice is based on the normal difficulty playthrough. I know that was probably a lot of nonsense, but I wanted to acknowledge a gripe while also acknowledging I'm a noob at the same time. I hope that made any sense to somebody. Using the courtyard key I found earlier, I went out to, you guessed it, the courtyard. There's a pool filled with foes and a mysterious baby carriage that contained another coin. This also grants us access to yet another wing of the apartment complex. Using the fire escape key at the end of the wing reveals open access to the adjacent building. He chooses to jump across and enter. The toilet in this place had seen better days. No goddamn way am I gonna reach in and grab this wallet with a combination on it, but James does. I'm guessing on hard riddle difficulty, it probably gives you a hint as to the combo instead of directly feeding it to you. Inside the safe in the room is a bunch of handgun bullets. My spidey senses were tingling. This seems like the kind of stash you get before a boss battle. I steel my nerves and prepare for what is outside this doorway. When I open the door, it reveals something far worse than a boss battle. This truly is the ultimate in terror. Fuck! It's another goddamn apartment structure mirroring the one I just spent a significant amount of time in. This right here is when my patience began to wane for this game. I was so goddamn tired of being a bunch of identical spaces, and I desperately yearned for a different place to explore. Even if thematically, you understand that apartments are just a bunch of symmetrical rooms set up in the same way, I understand that. But you can't put a price on your sanity. The atmosphere had never relented, but I was beginning to fear that I would have to persevere this game rather than enjoy my time in it. I won't try and build up any further suspense. The game did get considerably better, but my fear of long rows of identical rooms were not entirely unfounded. This was my problem, though. This is a problem for me. My feelings at this point deserve to be addressed, even if they won't be shared by other people. I painstakingly walked you through some of the ins and outs of this first segment of the game because I wanted you to understand how I could build up this feeling of monotony after spending a lot of damn time in these same areas. My point has been made, though, and I will now continue with a more condensed summation of the neighboring building. Down the hall, there's a locked door with a note saying that the house key was left in a room near the first floor staircase. In one of the bedrooms, you can find Angela, the girl from the cemetery.
Oh, it's you.
Yeah, I'm James.
Angela.
Angela, okay. I don't know what you're planning, but there's always another way.
Really? But you're the same as me. It's easier just to run. besides, is what we deserve.
No, I'm not like you.
Are you afraid? I'm sorry.
It's okay. Did you find your mother?
Not yet. She's not anywhere.
Did she live in this apartment building?
I don't know.
So, all you know is she lived in this town.
What did you say? How do you know that?
Well, I just figured, 'cause this is where you're looking for her. How else would I know?
Yeah,
Am I right?
I'm so tired.
So, why did you come to this town anyway?
I'm sorry. Did you find the person you're looking for?
Not yet. Her name's Mary. She's my wife.
I'm sorry.
It's okay. Anyway, she's dead. I don't know why I think she's here.
She's dead?
Don't worry. I'm not crazy. At least, I don't think so.
I've got to find my mama.
Should I go with you? This town's dangerous. Now I know what you meant back there in the cemetery.
I'll be okay by myself. Besides, I'd just slow you down.
What about that?
Will you hold it for me?
Sure. No problem.
If I kept it, I'm not sure what I might do. I'm sorry. I've been bad. Please don't.
I really find myself at a loss. Originally, I had intended to merely break down the events of all the cutscenes, but once I have words on the page, they don't adequately describe the cutscenes. As such, you will get to experience the bulk of them with me. The letter from Mary in the intro to the game is the most traditionally voice-acted material thus far in the game. James, Eddie, and Angela all have the same dreamy way of talking that didn't appear to be present in the letter from Mary. I'll return with further thoughts on some of these cutscenes once we have a little more meat on the bone to break them down with. For now, James has Angela's knife, and he needs to find a way out of there. He also finds another coin with a man's face on it in a room. Across from the stairs on the first floor, there's a desk with 5 vacant coin slots on it. It has a puzzle that hints at the sequence that you should place your 3 found coins in. When the coins are in sequence, the desk unlocks and reveals the key to the home upstairs as advertised. Inside room 209, you do not find another enemy, but you do find this. Come the hell on with this devious sound design. I was scrubbing through my footage and it still got me. In the next room over, James can find a key for the apartment stairway so he can finally get out of this building. Unfortunately for everyone, Pyramid Head is blocking the path. I was unsure how to deal with him. It sounds like your bullets are ineffectual and the hacksaw Jim Duggan approach seemed ludicrous as he has a giant sword. It turns out your task is simply to stay alive as he chases you around. He is actually not that hard to dodge with this amount of space in the room, Eventually, a siren goes off. Pyramid Head takes his leave, and the water that was previously blocking your escape route drains to give you a path of escape. Thank you for the money. In spite of the fact that I was terribly relieved to be done with the apartment complex, once I was outside, I feared I had missed something. James remarks that there's nothing more to do here, and he'll go back to looking for Mary. My first thought was, I goddamn hate it when games close off my route so I can't return. What if I missed something and I want to get back to it? My second thought was, holy fuck, I can breathe again. It was such a relief to return to the streets of Silent Hill. The apartment complex had proved to be overbearingly claustrophobic for me. Rows and rows of identical looking rooms and hallways filled with those off-putting creatures. The streets of Silent Hill are filled with the same creatures, but there's so much more room for activities. You can bypass the enemies easily here, and it proves why the bulk of the game takes place in cramped locations. In the streets of Silent Hill, I began to think of the enemies as set dressing. The enemies were like the fog. The sounds of them creeping nearby add a feeling of dread while not actually being a true gameplay challenge. It's funny how oppressive the cramped interior spaces felt to me because I typically enjoy tight spaces. I was on an 8th grade field trip to Catalina where there was this compact maze. You were shrouded in darkness. The maze was like a giant puzzle cube about maybe 15 by 15 feet in size. Many of my fellow students instantly freaked out inside these narrow shafts where you were forced to navigate in darkness. Meanwhile, I just wanted to linger in there. In high school, I'd watch TV from under my bed in the tight space below. I used to tell people because the vent for the AC was down there, but like I also just kind of liked hanging out down there. I'm sure the armchair psychologists already have strange theories going on here and has nothing to do with the womb. I watched my wife give birth twice. Trust me, I'm done with wombs. Wait, what was I talking about? What's going on? Where am I? James wanders around Rosewater Park for a while until he stumbles upon a friendly face.
Mary? No, you're not.
Do I look like your girlfriend?
No, my late wife. I can't believe it. You could be her twin. Your face, your voice, just your hair and clothes are
My
different.
name is Maria. I don't look like a ghost, do I? See? Feel how warm I am?
You're really not Mary.
I told you, I'm Maria.
He really needs convincing that this is Maria. He's still on the hunt for Mary. This perplexes her as he just told her that his wife is dead. He explains the letter and their special place. She hasn't seen her and asks about their special place. He's beginning to believe their special place might be at the hotel on the lake. He begins to leave in a complete state of confusion.
You're coming with me?
You were gonna just leave me?
No, but...
With all these monsters around?
No, I just...
I'm all alone here. Everyone else is gone. I look like Mary, don't I? You loved her, right? Huh, or maybe you hated her.
Don't be ridiculous.
So it's okay?
Yeah, fine.
This relationship has started in a really weird place. First, it seemed as though he was coming onto her, but now it seems as though she is coming onto him. Either way, this strange duo is going to make their way towards the hotel. The city planner of Silent Hill will make that difficult, though. I'd gotten used to nonchalantly exploring in the ruined city, but as I was making my way around, I realized that I was now tasked with protecting Maria as well. This complicates matters. In front of the gas station, there is a running car with a giant pipe sticking out of the motor. I was psyched to no longer be screwing around with a 2x4. After this point though, I found that I had so many bullets that taking my chances with melee weapons was really no longer necessary. I think it's important that I restate that I was playing on normal difficulty. This may appear to be like a Resident Evil game, but you won't have to concern yourself with carefully rationing supplies or shuttling items between your inventory and a storage container. The level design makes the idea of item drop points a silly concept. Much like when I left the apartment complex, once you leave an area, you won't return in Silent Hill. Resident Evil games typically are in tight, confined spaces that loop back into themselves. It makes shuffling items into an item box a reasonable proposition. This game is not tense because of its gameplay mechanics, although I did give you a pretty good example with the camera earlier, but ignore me, I'm an idiot. It's tense because of the foreboding atmosphere. The sound and the enemy design put you on edge, but the gameplay is more of a means to an end. If you have a preference for one style over another, then that will likely decide which of these series you favor. Well, also, I'm saving my thoughts for the story once the blinders are fully removed, but Silent Hill leaves you the story that sticks to you. Resident Evil games are not known for their harrowing personal tales. This video is going to be a complete ramble, and I really hope someone there is out there for it. The next stop is a bowling alley. Maria says she hates bowling and waits outside. I will later have thoughts on this choice.
So what'd you do? Robbery? Murder?
Nah, nothing like that.
Huh! You're just a gutless fatso.
What'd you have to say that for?
Eddie and the little girl that kicked the key earlier are having a chat. She asks him why he didn't just apologize for the bad things he did, and he replies that they wouldn't listen. He believes he's beyond forgiveness. When James makes his way into the room, it's just Eddie who remains.
Eddie?
Oh, you're...
James. We met in the apartment building?
Yeah, I remember, but...
Are you alone here, Eddie?
No.
Bye-bye.
Wait! Come back! Eddie, let's go after her.
Huh? Laura? But why?
Laura. Is that her name?
That's what she said.
This town is full of monsters. How can you sit there and eat pizza?
She said she was fine by herself. She said a fatso like me would just slow her down.
Forget you.
Firstly, Eddie is really leaning into the fatso thing. Secondly, Laura, that's her name. All right. Eddie says all he knows is her name, and James gives chase. Out front, Maria's lost too. I gave chase as best I could, but I didn't honestly know which direction to go. Near the end of the street, this happens. What the H? There was someone on that dev team that keeled over laughing when he suggested that. Homie got punted. I found out later that if you return the same way, it will happen again. Don't get me wrong, I'm sure someone got startled like crazy somewhere. When you see that thing launch out of the woods though, it catches my funny bone. I don't know what to say. The actual correct path leads down an alley to a gate that looked like another piece of the set dressing. The actual problem with the game being filled with non-interactive decorative doors is when one is able to be open, it needs to be signposted. I wasted way too much time finding this gate. The eventual path leads to a locked door. Fortunately, Maria has the key. Damn, this beat hits every time. I can't put a finger on the vibe it gives me. I don't know things or stuff, but sometimes you're just struck by the perfect combination of sight and sound, and this is one of those scenarios for me. This bar is called Heaven's Night, and it has some kind of pole on the dance floor, probably for fire accessibility or something. The fact that Maria has the key, combined with her cultivated image, gives you a certain impression of her. I'm not saying it's fair. You can't see it, but my arms are in the air here. This place is a brief detour, but I'm entirely certain it was placed here specifically to give you that impression of Maria's character. Laura runs to the front of the building. A nearby map shows you that it's Brookhaven Hospital. In the first door, there's a save point and a patient report from the hospital. It describes Jack Davis, who is non-violent to the staff and has attempted suicide on multiple occasions. It also describes a patient named Joseph Barkin. He believes he's guilty for causing his daughter's death. He has paranoid delusions and he is prone to violence when excited. Joshua Lewis has been admitted numerous times and has a history of assault, battery, and other violent offenses, and he has a strong persecution complex. Caution is advised to the staff. In a back room, you can find another note from one of the doctors. It reads as follows: "The potential for this illness exists in all people, and, under the right circumstances, any man or woman would be driven, like him, to the other side." The other side, perhaps, may not be the best way to phrase it. After all, there is no wall between here and there. It lies on the borders where reality and unreality intersect. It lies on the borders. My cats are killing me right now. It lies on the borders of where reality and unreality intersect. It's a place both close and distant. Some say it isn't even an illness. I cannot agree with them. I'm a doctor, not a philosopher or even a psychiatrist, but sometimes I have to ask myself this question. It's true that to us, his imaginings are nothing but the inventions of a busy mind, but to him, there simply is no other reality. Furthermore, he's happy here. So why, I ask myself, why in the name of healing him must we drag him painfully into the world of our reality? There is another note written by hand. I got the key from Joseph. It's probably the key to that box. You pick up the purple bowl key. This is what I'm clicking at magazines on the floor for. This is why I was picking at the garbage in the apartment complex. I was often desperate to find the additional flavor these collectibles could add to this world. They do exist, but they're few and far between at times. That note was chilling, and I was left wondering what was going on in that patient's reality. The ground floor is a nothing burger with nothing but locked rooms, and so the only path is onward and upward. On the second floor, you are immediately greeted by the sounds of the radio. The first floor had gotten me accustomed to exploring on my own time, and instantly the indications of foes quickened my pace. I finally pulled out my handgun, and gun violence was now on the table. Sadly, I wasn't smart enough to realize that I could shoot Maria, and I seemingly did so at the first opportunity I could. You think the cops would believe my story that she literally stood in front of the way of my gunshots pointed at monsters? Yeah, probably not. Maybe? No, probably not. Maybe. The enemies at the hospital are all sinister and scantily clad nurses. It's amazing how sexy nurse can quickly go so wrong. Their movements are really disturbing. They have these twitchy, lurchy ways of moving that are truly disconcerting. There was no better feeling than hearing the hiss of the radio extinguish itself, though. The backing track that had soared during combat slowly falls away. It almost feels like a friend's hand upon your shoulder, followed by a "You got him, Chief." I'm noticing that this script is heavily filled with compliments for the subtleties of the audio, but I'm telling you, it's truly worth remarking upon. In the exploration, another key, a bent needle, a shotgun, and an examination room key. Much of what I learned from this was to check the locker rooms at hospitals because all the good shit's hidden in there. On the mirror in the exam room, there's a note with a key code I'd been searching for. There's also a note with personality disorder results that James says he doesn't need to read. God damn it, Team Silent, I just paid you a compliment about this. Guys, if you can, please comment. Would you like to know the results of a random personality disorder test? It doesn't matter that you don't know who it is, because that shit intrigues me. I'm already in the spooky hospital with the spooky nurses. Give me the spooky old patient histories. Inject it straight into my veins. The key code leads into another identical looking hallway in the other wing of the hospital. More rows of identical looking doors to check while fending off the naughty nurses. This is awful tense.
James. Wait a minute. I'm kind of tired. It's just a hangover.
You should rest.
So comfy.
I'm gonna go look for her. For Laura. I'll be back as soon as I can.
With Maria taking a nap in the beat-up hospital room, you are now untethered and can explore the hospital without the fears of Maria being hurt. You have the roof key now. You can return to Maria to check on her, but she has only a couple of voice lines that will repeat when you speak to her. I thought her staying in that room would only be momentary, and I was afraid to get much distance, but she really is just chilling in there. I mean, it's like a ratty bed in an old hospital surrounded by haunted-ass nurses. I guess you do your thing, girl. I found a box locked up in a bed, and I had found 2 keys thus far, but there was also a combo lock that had me a bit confused. Down the hall was a shower that was just as clean as Maria's bed. There was clearly something lodged in the drain. I attempted to use the bent hook I got from the locker room, but that didn't have enough reach to get whatever was in there to the roof. I was initially bummed to find nothing of consequence up there, but then thanks to my smashing of the interact button, I found an old diary. It was one of the old patients recounting their days. Each day reveals the sorrow of this individual. They felt useless and weak. They only felt right when they were on drugs. What does that say about them? This person just doesn't want to be anyone's problem anymore. They're on the edge. Their will to live has been tested. That is, until the doctors tell them that they're released. It's time to go home. This is the last page of the diary. We're left to speculate on this person's end, but we don't speculate for long. This was actually a fortuitous fall from the roof. This area had been locked off before. I have to watch this footage back as I miss a key item in the only room we can enter in here. Next to it, a note that Joseph can be taken out of his cell if he looks calm. You remember Joseph, right? Since I missed that key item, I end up wandering around the halls of the hospital for a long damn time. I checked up on Maria again. She says the same things as before. She asks James what he'll do if he can't find Mary. He doesn't have a good answer. If you speak to her again, she says that she'll be okay soon and asks about Laura. I've been in this place so damn long now, I literally forgot all about Laura. That goddamn box! I need that combination to open that box, I'm sure of it. Well, I was right. The combination is written in blood inside Joseph's cell. The box is now open. Oh, wait, no. There's another lock. Goddamn. So anyways, about 25 minutes later, I find a typewriter that was one of the first rooms I entered. It had the combination. Everything I did was wrong. None of this is the game's fault. I'm just bad. The box contains a single hair in it. 4 locks to protect a single strand of hair. Remember the drain? I have to attach the hair to the bent pin to fish out whatever was in the drain. By this point, this made total sense to me compared to the seemingly impenetrable locked box scenario. I hadn't mentioned the elevator because it had been broken on every level to this point, but the drain concealed the key. The elevator grants access to a completely separate wing of the hospital. Yes, it mirrors the other wing, but it was progress. Laura can be found playing around in one of these rooms. Listen to the eerie Foley work combined with the score here.
Laura? Eddie told me.
That big fat blabbermouth.
How do you know about Mary?
What's the big deal?
Why can't you just tell me?
You gonna yell at me if I don't?
No, I won't.
I was friends with Mary. We met at the hospital. It was last year.
You liar! Laura,
Fine, don't believe me.
But last year, Mary was already... I'm sorry, Laura. Anyway, let's go. We can talk about this later. This is no place for a kid. There are all sorts of strange things around here. I can't believe you haven't even gotten a scratch on you.
Why should I? Wait, there's something I gotta get.
Later, okay?
But it's really important.
What is it?
A letter from Mary.
Huh?
I wanna go get it. Is that okay?
Yes, yes.
Come on, hurry up.
Is it in there?
Yeah, in the back.
What are you doing, Laura?
It's further back in the desk.
Laura! What are you doing?
Ha ha, I tricked you.
Open the door, Laura.
Why should I? I'm a liar, right? Want me to open it? Huh? Do ya? What's the magic word?
Laura?
Okay, I guess I won't open it. I think I'll just leave you like this.
You snotty little brat! Open up!
Why, you...
Laura?
You hurt me!
It strikes me that James isn't a big kids guy. Oldest trick in the book. When the kids lock me out of the house, I at least make them work for it. This is an awkward boss fight. Not only are the creatures suspended from the ceiling, the room is very compact and the camera changes within steps of movement. It makes it hard to get any space to awkwardly raise a gun. Once these creatures are defeated, this happens. The siren that called Pyramid Head before has returned. You're still in the hospital. Well, sort of. This is a darker universe version of it. Just like before, this place intersects with our reality. It's both close and distant. The nurses are more aggressive here, and I had to be on high alert the moment I opened a door. You would think that after all the pissing and moaning I did in the apartment complex that this even bigger area would also drive me cuckoo banana brains. But I was far more intrigued at this point, though. In a room at the end of the hall, I found a dry cell battery and a note. I was locked up inside the basement's basement. Something about that line spoke to me. This individual will not go back there, but clearly James will have to make the push. There's an old refrigerator in one room. The lid is too heavy for James. I know he's an everyman, but goddamn, James, do some push-ups or something. He pushes forward and he's able to find the room Maria was in. There are empty medicine bottles, but she's no longer here. This was the most terrifying moment of the game for me. Some of the most devious shit that this team did was make you feel the most vulnerable when you were actually the most safe. I had already defeated the enemy in that room. That breaking glass broke me in the moment. And if you go back, they got me again. Down in the basement, you can move a shelf that reveals a narrow passage.
James!
Mary? Oh, Maria. It's you. I thought you were... Sorry. Anyway, I'm glad you're alive.
Anyway? What do you mean, anyway? You don't sound very happy to see me. I was almost killed back there. Why didn't you try to save me? All you care about is that dead wife of yours. I've never been so scared in my whole life. You couldn't care less about me, could you?
No, I
Then
just...
stay with me. Don't ever leave me alone. You're supposed to take care of me. So, what about Laura? Did you find her?
Yeah, but... She ran away.
We've got to find her.
You really seem to care about her. Do you know her?
I've never met her before. I just feel sorry for her. She's all alone. And for some reason, I feel like it's up to me to protect her.
Maria doesn't even know Laura, but she's made it her task to find and protect her. Meanwhile, James is in La La Land. He does find the lost ring in the basement's basement, though, so I guess that's something. Getting on the elevator, James and Maria have a strange shared experience. The man on the intercom begins to give a quiz to James. It's a simple multiple choice quiz. What is the name of the amusement park in Silent Hill? What is the name of the man who killed the 2 children? The final question is the name of the road you could take from South Vale to Pale Vale. I was confused because I was never actually able to answer the questions in the moment. The voice on the intercom comes and then leaves as fast as it came. The elevator doors open and you're back to fighting nurses. Most peculiar. The good news is Maria can now help the wimpy James open the fridge. It is yet another ring. There's a statue of an angelic figure holding up her hands in front of the elevator on one of the floors. The rings are clearly for her hands. Before that, though, there's a chest in a room that has a pin code in it. The questions on the elevator were for this chest. I had found a note about the murderer Walter Sullivan. That question was easy enough to look back up in that note. The name of the park I remembered from a brochure I found. The name of the street was a guess, but I was fortunate to get it right. I'm a little bit kicking myself that I didn't save and then come back and try out a different wrong combination to see what happened. It is what it is. The angel statue gets her rings and reveals yet another passage to a stairwell. Once at the bottom of the stairs, the sound of Pyramid Head could be heard. Now, I'm not going to lie. I just started running. I was not fast enough.
Open up!
The somber piano hits. I wanted to reload. but I'm the type of player that generally likes to live with the consequences of my actions. I left a save slot just before Maria's death so I could come back and try later. I didn't get a game over, so I chose to continue exploring. Now this is present timeline Shane. I now realize that this was a scripted event that I couldn't do anything about, but at the time I thought I had caused her death by one of my actions. I started writing it like I was speaking in that moment and realized it was garbled nonsense, but I also didn't have the common sense to restructure this whole segment, so deal with it. You watched a Shepherd Games video, and so you're as culpable as I am. This is the first floor of the hospital. James has found his way back to the entrance. There's a note with a town map, a hospital lobby key, a location of a wrench, and a location where something was buried at the foot of a statue in the park. The somber music continues, though. The game wants you to linger in your failure, just as James is forced to do. James finds the wrench and a note about the key to the Historical Society. He then goes to the park and does some excavating. The key is buried at the described location at the foot of a statue. This scavenger hunt does not make a ton of sense to me. Who left these notes? At this point, you're in a nightmare realm of Silent Hill, so any continuing strangeness can be contributed to a nightmare logic. Frankly, anything can happen. These contrivances don't hold up to any level of scrutiny. I'll have thoughts to later as to why that is true throughout the entirety of the game, really. But as for now, that's my working thought process in the moment. With a key to the Historical Society, James can get access. I was pretty excited because any further information on the town was welcome for me. This location has been on the map since the beginning, and I'd been aching to visit it. The walls are cluttered with paintings. Most of the artifacts in the Historical Society are items that James refuses to remark upon. There are a few, though. Misty Day, Remains of the Judgment. Pyramid Head haunts even this location. There are other paintings of the city. A painting from the hospital explains it was built in response to a great plague that followed a wave of immigration to this area. There's a photo of a great hole. No further elaboration is present. The touches with the hospital were welcomed, but I was again disappointed to not get more details on the town. But in case you haven't figured it out, like, this is James' Nightmare World, so I guess what touches he would leave, I don't know. James eventually finds a hole in the wall that leads down a ridiculously long set of stairs. There are more paintings here. There's a picture of a prison camp. Adjacent to it is another execution at the prison. I wonder where we are headed. One room has a gaping hole in the floor. This is the only path to continue. James takes a leap of faith and jumps down. I wouldn't. Then again, I would have left ages ago. James awakens at the bottom of the well. There are no doors, no obvious path to climb up. I walked around the hole while mashing interact. My years of experience playing old games helped me out here, and eventually I found a spot in the wall that James noticed was different. I smashed the heck out of it with a pipe and revealed a path. Continuing through this area eventually takes you to a room with a spiral writing key. Also, James is now locked in. Again, I attempted my mash the interact strategy to no avail. My flashlight isn't working anymore. Remember that dry cell battery I picked up at the hospital? I didn't. I tried quite a few things to get out of here. When in doubt, attack the wall viciously with a pipe. The trick to escape was actually to replace the battery in your flashlight. Thank God I noticed the flashlight in my inventory. With the lights on, the room is revealed to be filled with bugs. Ah! The keypad has some numbers that are heavily worn off. You know that gag. The spiral writing key gives you access to the one obvious path forward. It's pitch black and you can't see the bottom. James is obviously cracked and takes another leap of faith. Yet another action I would not have taken.
Killing a person ain't no big deal. Just put the gun to their head.
Eddie's down here, and he's a bit off the rails. Eddie had a good reason for killing this guy. He had it coming. The guy was making fun of Eddie with his eyes. James tries to reason with him, and Eddie mentions a dog that similarly had it coming. Suddenly, he seems to come to a realization that he might not want to admit to these crimes, and says the man was dead when he got there. Eddie takes his leave. In a modern game, you would certainly get a moment of James monologuing out loud for this scenario. Not here, though. James continues in silence. Can you imagine, though, if Nolan North was voicing James? Oh, man, Eddie is a peculiar character. Man, I don't know, man. I'm normal. He's weird. Blah, blah, blah. Anyways, sorry. James procures a tablet of gluttony and makes out to the hallway where there are a row of cells. One of them contains a wax doll and some books that would be some interesting reading. There are obviously creatures in some of these cells, but I was unable to open the doors. It adds some sense of discomfort knowing there are foes nearby, even if they can't actually hurt you through the bars. There's a news article about Toluca Lake, the town's most prominent tourist attraction. In 1918, a boat called the Little Baroness that was filled with tourists failed to return to port. The fate of the ship is still unknown, and no part of the ship or its occupants were ever recovered. There was another event in 1939, but the pages of the article had been torn out, so we're left to speculate. Due to these events, it's led to ghost stories of the bodies at the bottom of the lake reaching for the surface. The next path forward requires 3 tablets to be found and placed at an altar. Well, more specifically, this altar at the foot of these gallows. This is inside a vast dark room. You'll hear noises and be certain at some point you will be beset by foes here. It never comes to pass. Creepy though, to be sure. The tablet solution gets you a horseshoe. Sweet, I guess. Before I leave this area, I should just show this because this part messed me up pretty good. So you have a lighter, a wax doll, and a horseshoe. I just read that off of my notes and I'm like, wow. The lighter melts the wax doll and the horseshoe becomes a replacement handle for the depression left in a door. Luckily, you aren't overburdened with spare items, so you can use what you get by trial and error, but this seemed like an extra peculiar puzzle solution. Again, James takes a leap of faith into the darkness below. At the bottom, he finds himself in a morgue. The next room over, yet another leap of faith into the darkness. If you're keeping track of where you're headed, you have to feel as though you're deep in the bowels of the city now. Wait, another leap of faith deeper down? At the bottom of this drop is an elevator that takes you further down. There is no turning back at any point here. I felt like this was the intent of all these jumps down deeper into the darkness. This game is telling you that you and James are headed into the depths, and there's no return from this. And also, if you had any illusions that this was a real place, you will quickly remedy yourself of this idea. The next segment is what I took to calling the Labyrinth. Though I'd freely admit there are several other areas in the game that could easily claim that title. Up top, there were a series of hallways with ladders down to a basement area. You navigate the basement and come up from the ladders with hopes that you found new areas up top. One of the rooms in the basements has the Great Knife, which is Pyramid Head's weapon. It's unwieldy and not really too useful for combat encounters. Also, he can't run with it, so it's dead to me. There's a door at the top floor that's blocked by a series of wires. I figured I just found this giant-ass blade, so certainly this was its purpose. After all, it isn't ideal for dragging around for combat purposes. Nope. More exploring in the depths for me. The actual solution was some wire cutters. Seems like that giant blade would suffice though, right? There are these creatures that roam in the place below that are cool in concept. As you walk around, you can see them running below you, but they honestly never hurt me once. Maybe they aren't supposed to hurt you, but rather just scare you. If you played this game before, can these guys hurt you? At the end of the path, there's a cube thing that changes the room around you. Let's just pretend I solved this puzzle with my own brilliant know-how and not that I just happened into a proper configuration. With the cube puzzle solved, a door appears in the adjacent room.
You're alive! Maria, I thought that thing killed you. Are you hurt bad?
Not at all, silly.
Maria? That thing, it stabbed you. There was blood everywhere.
Stabbed me? What do you mean?
It chased us to the elevator, and then
James, what are you talking about?
just before. Don't you remember?
James, honey, did something happen to you? After we got separated in that long hallway? Are you confusing me with someone else? You were always so forgetful. Remember that time in the hotel?
Maria?
You said you took everything, but you forgot that videotape we made. I wonder if it's still there.
How do you know about that? Aren't you Maria?
I'm not your Mary.
So, you're Maria?
I am. If you want me to be.
All I want from you is an answer.
It doesn't matter who I am. I'm here for you, James. See? I'm real. Don't you want to touch me?
I don't know.
Come and get me. I can't do anything through these bars.
Okay. Stay right there. I'll be there soon.
Bro, this Maria is trifling. She's playing with James, and he is ill-suited to fight against it. He leaves her to find safe passage. James' voice actor is at his best here to me because he is so defeated. He has that whipped husband tone in his voice, and trust me, I know that voice. There's an electrical box with the aforementioned wire cutters jammed into it. Now, I was under the impression that the wire cutters would have solved my little maze issue, but no. More traveling through underground passageways for me. You can happen upon a newspaper with some of the details blocked out. A lumberjack was stabbed in the neck with a knife, and the police are opening a murder investigation. No time to worry about that, though, because you can hear screams coming from the other room.
Daddy, please don't!
I basically withstood this creature in this type space by spamming healing items. With him subdued, Angela opens up her own can of whoop ass on the creature.
Are you okay? Angela, relax.
Don't order me around!
I'm not trying to order you.
So what do you want then? Oh, I see. You're trying to be nice to me, right? I know what you're up to. It's always the same. You're only after one thing.
No, that's not true at all.
You don't have to lie. Go ahead and say it. Or you could just force me. Beat me up like he always did. You only care about yourself anyway. You disgusting pig.
Angela,
Don't touch me! You make me sick. You said your wife Mary was dead, right?
yes. She was ill.
Liar! I know about you. You didn't want her around anymore. You probably found someone else.
That's ridiculous. I never.
The fact that she never says precisely what the person in question did or whom that person actually was doesn't obscure the truth of her trauma. The room says it all it needs to. You can start to understand what's led to Angela's current headspace now. When she tells James that he probably found someone else, it seems to cut him deep. I'll have some thoughts about this moment I'll share later. I know that's a theme. Deal with it. The next progression sequence takes place when you encounter two rooms that are side by side. In one, there's a series of empty nooses hanging in the room. The second has a series of those who are hanged along with their corresponding crimes. The gist of this puzzle is that you're supposed to find which of these were unjustly hanged and pull the corresponding noose. There's a story written on the wall. I'm not entirely certain if this plays out exactly the same for every playthrough, or if they're just different permutations of the unjustly murdered person. For my playthrough at least, the exonerated party was the arsonist. 3 houses into ashes burned. The sheriff with no place to turn did spy a stranger to his town, locked him up and beat him down. I was still nonetheless timid to pull the noose. In the prior room with the bodies, the arsonist is no longer hanging there, but his paper that had covered his face remains along with the key of the persecuted. This key opens a further path forward. James can make it to Maria now. Silent Hill strikes again. Maria has been maimed. She also has some kind of affliction going on with her face. I found it intriguing that when James looked upon her body, the only thing he said was,
Mary.
The following room is filled with tombstones. James Sunderland, Angela Orozco, Eddie Dombrowski. Perfectly normal stuff, really. Would it surprise anyone at this point if the path forward was going to go through the hole at the base of James' tombstone? Thank you for the money.
Eddie, what are you doing?
What does it look like? He always busted my balls. You fat, disgusting piece of shit. You make me sick. Fat ass, you're nothing but a waste of skin. You're so ugly, even your mama don't love you. Well, maybe he was right. Maybe I am nothing but a fat, disgusting piece of shit. But you know what? It doesn't matter if you're smart, dumb, ugly, pretty. It's all the same once you're dead. And the corpse can't laugh. From now on, if anyone makes fun of me, I'll kill him. Just like that.
Eddie, have you gone nuts? I knew it.
You too. You're just like him, James.
Hey, I didn't mean anything.
Don't bother. I understand. You've been laughing at me all along, haven't you? Ever since we first met. I'll kill you, James!
I know I'm just letting these cutscenes play uninterrupted, and I should provide more commentary. but I really think it's important for the game to do its work, and I'll save the bulk of my actual commentary for later. I'm sure I'll timestamp it for you. I didn't want to kill Eddie, but he drew first blood, not me. I didn't want to linger in these rooms being filled with ominous smoke. In the next room, Eddie finally reveals his true motivations.
Do you know what it does to you, James? When you're hated, picked on, spit on, just because of the way you look, after you've been laughed at your whole friggin' life. That's why I ran away after I killed the dog. Ran away like a scared little girl. Yeah, I killed that dog. It was fun. It tried to chew its own guts out. Finally died all curled up in a ball. Then he came after me. I shot him too, right in the leg. He cried more than the dog. He's gonna have a hard time playing football on what's left of that knee.
You think it's okay to kill people? You need help, Eddie.
Don't get all holy on me, James. This town called you too. You and me are the same. We're not like other people. Don't you know that? Let's party!
This Eddie fight at least gives a bigger room to fight in. I was using the hunter's rifle as it was clearly a powerful weapon, but man did I regret it every time I used it. It takes too damn long to lower after you fire a shot. The good news is you have something to hide behind, but the bad news is he does too. The boss fights will not be what leaves a lasting impression on me from this game. As such, I feel it's fine that I don't try and break these down in graphic detail. With Eddie defeated, James realizes that he just killed a human being. This leaves an impression on him as he isn't so dismissive of the loss of human life as Eddie was. Before I continue with the story proper, I think now is a time when I can finally break down what everyone has probably figured out by now. Eddie says to James that the town has called him too. This is the first time the game is so overt in its description of the goings-on. Yes, everything is dreamlike and surreal. That's because the people in this town are being tortured by their own memories. This is a hell of James' making. Something happened with Mary 3 years ago. Nothing has been plainly stated as of yet, but you know it's coming. Eddie obviously was running from his actions. He had guilt for hurting the dog and the star athlete. Angela had a childhood that has her trapped in a loop of her own creation. I keep pussyfooting around this because it will be simply easier to discuss all of this in broad strokes once all key plot points have been revealed. At some point, you'll have to address the elephant in the room, though. And this elephant is a whole town that is built with nonsense structures and creepy creatures, and surreal puzzles as well. Even the creatures themselves seem specific to the people that they're torturing, but that's another thought for later. After the boat ride through the fog, eventually James is able to find the old hotel. The hotel that has been referenced several times at this point. There's a note at the reception desk claiming that the videotape James has been looking for was left in the office at the first floor. He also finds a key to room 312. That is the key to the room James and Mary stayed in. Laura is lying in wait in the restaurant area.
Did I scare you?
Yeah, you did.
Laura's convinced that Mary is here at the hotel. She shows James the letter that was stolen from Rachel, who is apparently Laura and Mary's nurse. The letter reads, "My dearest Laura, I'm leaving this letter with Rachel to give you after I'm gone. I'm far away now, in a quiet, beautiful place. Please forgive me for not saying goodbye before I left. Be well, Laura. Don't be too hard on the sisters. And Laura, about James. I know you hate him because you think he isn't nice to me, but please, give him a chance. It's true he may be a little surly sometimes and he doesn't laugh much, but underneath, he's really a sweet person. Laura, I love you like my very own daughter. If things worked out differently, I had hoped to adopt you. Happy 8th birthday, Laura. Your friend forever, Mary. When asked, Laura tells James that she turned 8 last week. James can't believe it. No way did she die 3 years ago if Laura just turned 8. Dude has a heart of gold but a head full of rocks. Laura can't find the other letter that she had and runs off to look for it. As far as gameplay, I've been exhausting so far, so you get it. Walking from room to room, exploring while taking down monsters in the halls. You find a fish key in the restaurant that can be used on a briefcase in the cloakroom, and this reveals another room key. One thing of note. In one of the rooms, James examines some medical books, and he says, I've already read enough medical books. None of them ever did any good. This is resoundingly different than the usual lines that come when he doesn't find something in particular interesting. In the same room, he finds some other books, and the line is simply, it doesn't look like it will be of any particular use. I complained several times that the game basically tells you with these descriptions that these things will have no gameplay pertinence. But I wanted some flavor to build up the world. With the medical book, so much is said with that small line. If I'm going to complain when I don't get what I want, then I should definitely have the courtesy of complimenting when I do get what I desire. Inside room 204, James acquires the employee elevator key. In the adjacent room, there's a locked suitcase and some photos that are marked up lying by the bed. Paint thinner can be found nearby that reveals the combination of the lock. The suitcase contains a Cinderella music box. Going to the elevator reveals that it has a weight limit. This means that James must place all of his possessions in a storage to take the elevator. If you haven't dropped your stuff in the elevator will not let you forget it. At the top of the elevator, I found a map that revealed a vast area. Immediately, I could tell the kind of tension they were building here. This game's combat is not cutting edge, but I had no desire to be vulnerable with no weapons as I explored this large area. Immediately, I found the videotape and a can opener. Exploring this area was proving to be not as intimidating as I thought, as there were not as many enemies and many of the rooms on the map were locked, so I was able to make a lot of progress very quickly. One of the closets had a Snow White music box. I'll get to the music boxes. I ran past the few enemies I found. I bet you are wondering what that can opener would be used for. There was an unmarked can in the kitchen. What was inside this can? Light bulbs. There's a lamp on the bar that's missing a light bulb. I replaced the bulb and exited the room. I found out later that it won't let you open the door without the light from this light bulb. Since I placed the light bulb first, I didn't see the prompt for this. I was so confused as to how the light bulb was even helpful that I had to look this up. It's like they had a quota for how many small puzzles had to be in an area, and the whole light bulb ordeal was just there to meet this quota. I don't know, man, but the dream logic of this game took a bit of a mental toll on me at times. The final puzzle of the hotel is in the lobby area. It's a music box clock thing with indentations for the smaller music boxes you can find. I described the Snow White music box and the Cinderella music box, but there was also a mermaid music box. This is what broke me. I had to look up a walkthrough at this point, and it turns out that I had missed the mermaid music box outside the hotel as I walked up. I had explored every room and I was at my wit's end. So anyways, to my great shame, this is where I gave in to locate the missing item. This isn't the fault of the game, but I just decided to admit my failings. Some of these puzzles and their solutions are strange, and I may not understand some of the choices that were made, but all of them can be solved with common sense, assuming you find the items. With all three music boxes, the strange music box contraption will play its song. It will also give you a stairwell key. Finally, access to the third floor, and with it, access to James and Mary's old room. There's nothing out of order in the room itself, but there is a VCR that's plugged into the TV. It's time to see the video that has been alluded to for hours now.
Are you taping again? Come on. I don't know why, but I just love it here. It's so peaceful. You know what I heard? This whole area used to be a sacred place. I think I can see why. It's too bad we have to leave. Please promise you'll take me again, James.
Did James just do what I thought he did? He's left in the hotel room, having to cope with the memories that he had clearly pushed deep down. Laura storms in asking questions about Mary. James tells Laura that Mary's dead. He finally has to confront the truth. He killed her.
You killer! Why'd you do it? I hate you! I want her back! Give her back to me! I knew it! You didn't care about her! I hate you, James! I hate you! I hate you! I hate you! She was always waiting for you. Why? Why?
I'm sorry. The Mary you know isn't here.
Once Laura departs, he's left with static on the screen. Mary's calling for him, and James is back on his mission to find her, just like that. He's now in a dark and nightmare version of the hotel. He finds a set of headphones that he can listen to that will remind him of the truth. He argues with the doctors that are giving him a not so optimistic prognosis for Mary's affliction. The game will never reveal what actually ails her, but that isn't the point. The point is that she had a disease that would eventually kill her. Most of the doors in the Nightmare Hotel are locked. It makes for a linear path through the areas. On the first floor, the tide rises to James, and he has a wetter walk towards the finish line. Eventually, he'll come upon a sad and familiar face.
Mama! Mama, I was looking for you. Now you're the only one left. Maybe then I can rest. Mama, why are you running away? You're not my mama. It's you. Oh, I'm sorry.
Angela, no.
Thank you for saving me. But I wish you hadn't. Even Mama said it. I deserved what happened.
No, Angela, that's wrong.
No, don't pity me. I'm not worth it. Or maybe you think you can save me. Will you love me? Take care of me? Heal all my pain? That's what I thought. James, give me back that knife.
No, I won't.
Saving it for yourself?
Me? No, I'd never kill myself. It's hot as hell in here.
You see it too. For me, it's always like this.
I tried to go after her, but the flames stopped James at every attempt. The fact that Angela is shocked that James can see the flames led me to another realization. This moment has James seeing Angela's exact torment. The same was true of the moment with her father earlier. Most of the time, this version of Silent Hill is James' specific hell, but on rare occasions like this, he's able to experience the torment of others. The building being in perpetual flames is part of Angela's torment. Pyramid Head is a dark and creepy figure, but this is a different kind of dark, and it cut me deep. Pyramid Head has Maria in his possession a few rooms down.
Stop! Leave her alone! Leave us both the hell alone! Ah!
James says that he needed her because he was weak. Maria was a creation of his mind. This whole ordeal is his way of punishing himself for his failings with Mary. Having a fight with two pyramid heads in this giant room makes you realize why you seldom get a chance to fight in such large spaces. They're large and lumbering, and all it requires for you to do is run to a corner and take a couple pot shots. Then you retreat, reload, and take some more. I feel like the entire game I was pissing and moaning to myself that the spaces were cramped and it was a pain. The game mechanics are what they are. Those cramped locations are needed to create the requisite amount of unease in the encounters. With enough ammo dumped into the pyramid heads, they will impale themselves and then remain motionless in the center of the room. I interpreted this as the pyramid heads no longer being needed, as James no longer had use for their torment, as he had overcome his need for them. One of them holds a scarlet egg, and the other a rust-colored egg. These can be placed in the nearby doors to continue. As James continues through the halls of the hotel, he's haunted by prior conversations with
Leave me alone already! I'm no use to anyone. I'll be dead soon anyway. Maybe today, maybe tomorrow. It'd be easier if they'd just kill me. But I guess the hospital is making a nice profit off me. They want to keep me alive. Are you still here? I told you to go! Are you deaf? Don't come back! James! Wait! Please don't go! Stay with me! Don't leave me alone! I didn't mean what I said! Please, James! Tell me I'll be okay! Tell me I'm not going to die! Help me!
Mary awaits him up top. Well, it appears to be her. Maria is using the guise of Mary to lure James in. She taunts him. Mary's dead and James killed her. James doesn't need Maria anymore. Maria pleads with James that she could be with him forever. She'll never yell at him or make him feel bad. It's all coming together. He's done needing Mary to chastise him. This final boss is literally James fighting his inner demons. Again, the arena is huge. Again, it makes this encounter extremely easy. Run to a corner and fire off some shots until it's time to relocate.
James.
Mary?
James.
Forgive me.
I told you that I wanted to die, James. I wanted the pain to end.
That's why I did it, honey. I just couldn't watch you suffer. No. That's not true. You also said you didn't want to die. The truth is, I hated you. I wanted you out of the way. I wanted my life back.
James, if that were true, then why do you look so sad?
Mary?
James. Please. Please do something for me. Go on with your life.
Remember the letter from the opening of the game? Well, now you get to see how that letter ends.
Waiting for you to come to see me. But you never do. And so I wait, wrapped in my cocoon of pain and loneliness. I know I've done a terrible thing to you. Something you'll never forgive me for. I wish I could change that. But I can't. I feel so pathetic and ugly laying here, waiting for you. Every day I stare up at the cracks in the ceiling, and all I can think about is how unfair it all is. The doctor came today. He told me I could go home for a short stay. It's not that I'm getting better. It's just that this may be my last chance. I think you know what I mean. Even so, I'm glad to be coming home. I've missed you terribly. But I'm afraid, James. I'm afraid you don't really want me to come home. Whenever you come see me, I can tell how hard it is on you. I don't know if you hate me or pity me, or maybe I just disgust you. I'm sorry about that. When I first learned that I was going to die, I just didn't want to accept it. I was so angry all the time, and I struck out at everyone I loved most.
Especially you, James. That's why I understand if you do hate me. But I want you to know this, James. I'll always love you. Even though our life together had to end like this, I still wouldn't trade it for the world. We had some wonderful years together. Well, this letter has gone on too long, so I'll say goodbye. I told the nurse to give this to you after I'm gone. That means that as you read this, I'm already dead. I can't tell you to remember me, but I can't bear for you to forget me. These last few years since I became ill, I am so sorry for what I did to you, did to us. You've given me so much, and I haven't been able to return a single thing. That's why I want you to live for yourself now. Do what's best for you, James. James, you made me happy.
I mentioned how peculiar the voice acting was a ton of times. Mary's note has none of the strange intonations of any of these prior conversations. For once, this voice performance was truly soulful and real. This is what leads me to believe that this letter and these words were truly from Mary, not some machination of James' mind. I can't tell you to remember me, but I can't bear for you to forget me, is a line that truly got me to sit up straight. This letter also signifies a turning point for James. He can turn away from the self-torment and regrets. James and Laura visiting the graves seems like an indicator that James has a willingness to put the past behind him and move on with his life. Clearly, this is a silver linings ending. Not all of them are so positive. I can't be sure without having seen all the different materials, but it seems like this letter can be taken different ways. One thing that stands out is, "I'm here waiting for you." This was a letter from Mary writing in the hospital that was intended for him after her death. It seems like James was so haunted that he took this as she was literally waiting for him in the town of Silent Hill. I may be reading into this wrong, but it seems like he had this whole letter already. His mind made him ignore the rest of it to goad himself into going on this quest to Silent Hill to find her. When you have the light of the letter, it kind of puts a whole new context on the entirety of the events of the game. I like that James admitted to Mary that he just wanted his life back. I equally appreciated how Mary retorted that if that were true, then why did he look so sad? Depending on where you lie, you may feel that James was simply selfish and really did just want his life back. Or he was just trying to end the misery of his poor wife that was never going to make it out of that bed again. The truth was somewhere in the middle if you ask my dumb speculation. Now, before I go back over the story with all we know, I'd like to address the DLC, Born from a Wish. It was on the main menu and I wasn't really certain which story I should start with. Thank God I did this after. Thank you for the money. Born from a Wish starts as Maria stares at herself in a mirror. She asks herself whether she should fight the nearby monsters or give up and let the monsters get her. She expresses the desire to find someone. The gun she's holding has exactly one bullet in the chamber, so that pretty plainly demonstrates her state of mind. There are other revolver bullets in her room to be found, so the choice to have one in the chamber is deliberate. Her room is above Heaven's Night, the bar of ill repute from the main game. In the bar, she can find a Chinese cleaver for use as a melee weapon. It will not be needed, unless you don't explore or are incredibly wasteful with your ammo. This is a story DLC, not an enemy gauntlet. She meanders down the streets of Silent Hill, but the only real path is one that leads to an old mansion. Now, I will be less descriptive in my blow-by-blow of the events of this DLC, since I likely scared off basically everyone by now with how descriptive I was with the main campaign. You get it, though. You find a map in the parlor next to a boarded-up fireplace. Want to guess if we break into the fireplace at some point? That's a yes. There are items like the whiteboard, blackboard, etc. You place them into indentations in the corresponding order. You get the gameplay routine. She finds a door at the top of the stairs with someone locked inside.
Is somebody there? Open up. Hello?
Stop it. You're disturbing me.
Thank God. I finally found somebody. Can you open the door?
No.
But why?
Is it really necessary for me to answer all your tedious questions?
Yes.
Oh, I didn't know that. I want to be alone. Other people just irritate me.
I just want to see another human face. Do you know what's happening in this town? There's no one here. Just monsters.
Yes, I know. But so what? It has nothing to do with me. No one here means there's no one to disturb me.
You want to be alone in this insane asylum?
Yes, exactly. But how can you say that it's this town that's insane? Perhaps it's we who are insane. Both of us. Hopelessly insane. Are you satisfied? Would you leave me alone?
My name is Maria. What's your name?
Ernest.
Hemingway?
Baldwin.
Ernest? I'll be back.
Our boy behind the door makes a good point. Maybe it isn't the town that's crazy, doll. Ernest just wants to be left alone, but you know Maria isn't going to make it that easy. Maria finds a child's room that looks as though it's completely untouched and lost in time. You probably already know where this is going. In the attic, Maria hears this as she answers.
Oh no! She fell out the window!
Don't move her.
Happened?
At the foot of a chair in the attic, you can find a birthday present for a little girl's dearest daddy. Again, you know where this is going.
Give it. To my daddy.
There's a book discussing the acacia tree, and it mentions that it's a potent symbol in many religions. In Christianity, it represents eternal life and morality. In Egypt, it represented purity and rebirth. In Babylonia, it was thought of as the tree of the goddess Ishtar, and it was a symbol of life. The ancient Jews used it to build the Ark of the Covenant, and it signified a peaceful death and a release from grief. This is the game dev showing you a gun. At some point, that gun will be fired. In the process of returning to Ernest, you may stumble upon some of his writings. You want to guess what this guy was into? If you were guessing Resurrection of the Dead, then you are a winner.
Do you know a little girl named Amy?
Why do you ask me that?
This letter. To my dearest daddy. It's from a girl named Amy Baldwin. Your daddy?
Yes. Where'd you find that?
Up in the attic.
Oh. What a fool. Now, when it's too late, I finally understand why. Why she was there. Why she was holding that empty envelope when she fell.
Ernest. Amy. She isn't... I'm sorry. I'm sorry I reminded you.
No need to apologize. You didn't remind me. I've never forgotten. Maria, some things we forget, and some things we can never forget. It's funny, I'm not sure which one is sadder. It's been 10 years, but I still...
Ernest, I'm sorry. I didn't know.
No, it's fine. Maria, that letter.
I'll leave it here.
Thanks. Maria? So you must be... That's why you could see me.
Huh?
So perhaps that means that I can hope for a miracle as well.
What do you mean?
In the apartment next door, there's a bottle containing a white liquid. I don't know exactly where it is, but I know it's in there somewhere. I must have it.
You... want me to get it for you?
Please.
Why don't you just get it yourself?
If I could, believe me, I would. But
White?
I'll open the stairway door.
Ernest, do you really believe it will work?
I don't know.
Well, that's okay. I don't mind fighting for an impossible cause. Anyway, it beats just giving up and doing nothing.
Maria, thank you.
So now, the new quest is to head into the apartment next door to find the white solution. Based on Ernest's notes, the white is equal to mist. Whatever the heck that means. In the original game, this apartment complex tortured me. The good news is that this visit is brief, and I also had a newfound sense of competency. You can find the door with the note that tells of leaving the key with Uncle David. The events of the game have yet to take place. She does find the mysterious white liquid, though. I returned promptly.
Thank you, Maria. That's the only item I couldn't get myself. By the time I found out about it, I could no longer leave this house. So long.
Yes, but Will...
Maria, the gods are here. You know it too. You were born in this town.
I'm not sure God is the right word.
Do you believe in fate?
Not really.
That's fine then.
Ernest, can I open this?
This is a dead end. There's nothing beyond here.
I know. So, what if I had said I believed in fate?
That James. He's a bad man.
James. Yes. I know.
He's looking for the you that isn't you.
Because he's kind? Do you know something?
Yes. Maria, you're...
Anyway, that's just what you think. You don't really know anything. That's fine.
Okay.
You might already have been onto it, but Ernest is torturing himself and trapped himself in a spiral of shame after the death of his daughter. He tells Maria she was born here. She stops him short of elaborating, but we know that she has been manifested by James. She wasn't born here in a traditional sense, more that she came to be here. I have not played the other Silent Hill games. I don't know if this is a machination of the place or Silent Hill, or simply that this game uses the place to represent the inner torture of these poor souls, people who are running or hiding from something. This DLC ends as Maria makes her decision to continue to fight. She presses forward and on to her eventual meeting with James. It's hard to say whether her conversation with Ernest spurred it on or whether it was inevitable. So let's take this in small bites. I want to go through character by character as I think is the easiest way to tackle it. James returns to Silent Hill based on the impetus of a letter sent by Mary. At the beginning of the game, he claims it was sent recently. This will lead you as the player to believe he just received it, and as such has good reason to return to find her. It's my speculation that he already had this letter and only remembers what is important enough to return to this place. I still cannot tell you whether or not there's something going on at the actual town of Silent Hill that gathers lost souls, or whether this is just happenstance that a group of people with lingering issues have yet to deal with something and they happen to meet here. Perhaps all of these people had traumatic events and all that happened to be here, so this is the place where their dark fantasies coalesced. What is clear is that James created a woman named Maria. Awful close to Mary, bro, a little on the nose. I think you might have a type. She's instantly into him, and although he acts like he's oblivious to it, he wanted a Mary archetype to exist in this place. She's different than Mary, though. Maybe something closer to a fantasy version of her? I don't know if I'm reading too much into this, but he may have been sexually frustrated after the loss of his wife, and this is the genesis of a more uninhibited version of Mary. This would explain the sexy nurses or the mannequins with 2 sets of legs. The enemies appear to be something that someone would dream up to torment themselves, so maybe the nurses are just his sexual frustration bleeding into his nightmare world. He's essentially giving himself 40 lashes for crimes that he hasn't dealt with himself. This whole tortured experience in town is just him atoning for his sins. The ending I got led to him forgiving himself for what he did. I didn't know what actions I took that led to this ending at the time. This was likely due to the fact that I'm just a thorough explorer. In truth, I looked up the criteria for the different endings, and I swear I did many of the things I'm not supposed to do. You weren't supposed to look at Angela's knife, and I tried to use it for several puzzles because I'm an idiot. I kept thinking like, I still have it. I should use it. I think some of my mistakes might have been fixed by me reloading to prior saves without even knowing. I stumbled ass backwards into a good ending, is really the truth of it. I like that he found redemption for himself. One of the alternatives, he ends up settling down with Maria in the town and giving into his psychosis. In another one, he comes to the realization that he has nothing without Mary and succumbs to the town in a different way. Although these might have a better through line with the events of the story to that point, and maybe thematically, it feels like such a waste to have all these trials and tribulations without a final revelation that turns things around. Why go through all that torture just to end up where he starts off at the beginning of the game as a tortured and broken man? I suppose at the beginning of the game, he's buried all of the truth of Mary's death, and he needed the town to remind him of his part in it, but man, that seems like an unsatisfying ending to me. In truth, I feel like James is the conduit for all the brighter plot points to shine through. I do sympathize with him as a character, but I think he's most strong for having a fertile soil to grow a garden of sadness around. I've tried to reword this several times, and every time I come off as dismissive towards James and his plight. I think the truth is, the events surrounding James and his situation just hit me harder than his actual character. The dreamy nature of the dialogue sets up that feeling of unease. It sets up the rug pull that this is a dream reality. What it doesn't do is make James very relatable. I think most of the time I'm considering the situation of him and his wife, this hell world that he created that torments him. I'm not actually thinking of James as a defined character that I liked. Yeah, like I just can't nail down how to message that in a way that makes me dismissive sounding and abrasive about my opinions of James. The truth is, I did like him. I don't not like him. His story and the stories surrounding him are all tragic. I just find it hard to, you know what? I'm never going to finish this thought, so I'm burying it. Angela. Let's talk about Angela for a moment. At the beginning of the game, she's looking for her mother in a cemetery. She tells James that she's looking for her mama in a very childish tone. She amends her statement to her mother. She also attempts to warn James of the evil in the town. he doesn't heed her warnings, and this makes her feel a certain way. It's clear that she's used to people not taking her seriously. She also tells him that she thought her dad and brother were here in the cemetery, but can't find them. I'm just gonna take a guess that her brother and father were the ones that might be buried in the cemetery, and she was hoping her mom would be there to visit. This is pure speculation by me, as I didn't uncover or perhaps notice enough to say for sure. We next see her in the apartment complex. She's obviously contemplating taking her own life. James is able to coax her to give him the knife. This is when I became certain that James was just like her, in spite of his protests to the contrary. When she says that they're the same, she's really telling him that he too is a tormented soul, someone who can't come to grips with something traumatic. Your next encounter with Angela is the scene with her version of her daddy. I didn't remark upon it initially, but it's pretty clear that she was the one who killed her dad. Heck, it's even possible that she used the knife that James is now in possession of. The room that the battle with her father takes place in is very evocative of her particular torment. You know what the hell I'm saying. I don't think I could muster spelling it out any further. She accuses James of having another girl, and this is particularly hurtful to James. I don't see any evidence that this was true, but we do find out Mary's ultimate fate, so perhaps that's Angela's perception of his motivations. Based on her life experience with men, she has no reason to trust him. Perhaps there are further materials that I missed that elaborate on her brother, but based on what I do know from her story, I doubt he was a stand-up guy. Your final encounter with her is at the burning stairs. She confuses James with her mama. When she realizes it isn't her, she tells James that mom always said she deserved what happened. She dealt with her abuse her whole life until one day she snapped and took it out on her father. Likely her brother as well, if I'm understanding things correctly. Okay, so I was watching the footage back, and I think there's actually 2 people stitched in frames by the flaming stairs. Am I right? Did she kill her brother too? God, this makes me question what I missed. I had presumed it was just her father, like in the boss room, but looking at it again, it makes me think there's 2 of them. There's so much stuff that I'm just positive I missed. Look, I'm not certain, but it seems like if her mother was there, then she could finally end her too. She doesn't want her mother to help her, as it's clear her mother never helped her. I think Angela's aim was to wrap up her family line once and for all. Angela's actions are definitely deplorable. Nonetheless, I'm sure that many people think of her as the character who haunts them the most. She's been victimized, and she eventually snapped. How was she supposed to grow and be a functional person when she was never given a proper role model to shape her into a proper adult? Her only role models were a father who abused her and a mother who condoned it. When she tells James that it's always like this for her, she's essentially telling James that her every waking moment is a fiery hell. It doesn't feel like a fate that she deserves. I may have seemed cruel when I said that James was merely the conduit for storytelling, but I think it's safe to say most people would agree with me that they feel very strongly for Angela, and she was only in a tiny sliver of the game when compared to James. Let's talk about Eddie Dombrowski. James asks Eddie about Pyramid Head when they first meet, and Eddie dismisses this, but he has seen monsters. It's now clear that the reason he hasn't seen Pyramid Head is because this foe is one of James' creation. Eddie's dealing with a different kind of demon. He claims innocence to the body in the apartment, and James believes him. After all, Eddie's puking from the mere sight of it. Later, he can be seen in the bowling alley. A recurring theme of being bullied appears when Laura calls him a gutless fatso. He refuses to pursue her since, in Laura's words, a fatso like him would just slow her down. When James meets Eddie again at the prison, Eddie is in somewhat of a fugue state before snapping out of it briefly. It's at this point when you can kind of piece the puzzle together. Eddie was bullied his whole life. The boss arena for Eddie appears to have been of his design. At least that's how it seems to me. When I arrived there, I was scared there was something seeping out, like some kind of poison. What actually lurked there was far less natural. Eddie stopped seeing his transgressions against the dog or the jock for what they were. He was originally tormented by them. Now he sees them through much colder eyes. Like the boy and the dog he shot were just pieces of meat. Or shit, maybe I'm really wrong about this, but that's at least what I took from these encounters. Eddie's different than Angela or James. These two are seeking some kind of atonement. Eddie's giving in to the idea that he's powerful here. He doesn't have to worry about being picked on. Now he could just kill whoever gets in his way. His story is similar to Angela's in that you feel for him and what led him to this point. Where it differs is where he ends up. He needed to be put out to pasture as he was a wild and crazed animal by his end. Maria is interesting. Born from a Wish paints a different picture than you get from the game. She throws herself into danger to help out Ernest. She helps him out, and she doesn't mind fighting for an impossible cause. I felt like that was a pointed remark, like she's willing to go through anything for a chance to be with James, even though that isn't very probable. When she opens the door and it reveals that Ernest isn't there, she seems immensely disappointed. I don't know if Ernest has been dead and is a ghost, or if he's just another haunted person like Eddie, Angela, or James. Those series of events lead her to eventually meeting James at the park, though. I would argue with a new sense of purpose. It's like she didn't remember James until Ernest told her about him. When she tells James not to leave her, there are monsters around, she isn't wrong, but it also seems like a clever way to get into his graces. On the first pass, I didn't notice, but she doesn't go into the bowling alley. She makes a remark like she doesn't like bowling, but we all know James isn't going there to bowl. I will postulate that she doesn't go in because Eddie and Laura are there. Maria is a construct of James' making, so perhaps they could instantly see the truth of her. Or at least that's my speculation on the matter. She does see Laura though, and tells James to chase after her. It's never established whether Laura actually saw her though. I can't make heads or tails of her actions in the hospital. She suddenly grows tired or sick and you leave her behind in a room. There's like allusions to like bottles, nearby, like she's like a junkie or something. I don't know. I kept checking in on her and expecting her condition to change or for her to have something new to say. Maybe this is her living up to the true Mary for once, reminding James of a bedridden woman in his care. Eventually, though, she meets her end at the hands of Pyramid Head. This also seems to be the end of the idealized Maria. From this point onward, she is not the confident and snarky Maria that James was first introduced to. When he runs into her cell, she's far more sinister and pointed. She directs James to find the videotape and takes great pains to confuse him with memories of Mary. When he returns to find her dead, she's not only murdered, but she has scarring on her face that look very similar to the scars on Mary's face from her illness. This is why James mutters Mary under his breath as he gazes upon her. Maria's ultimate fate is to be the temptress at the end of the game. She propositions James with the opportunity to stay here with her. She's willing to be Mary's off-brand substitute. In one of the endings, this is actually James' choice. However, even though she's the temptress, she also will not let James forget his foul deeds. In the end, Maria may have been a construct in James' head, but she's also a resident of Silent Hill. She came into this world with a sad purpose and she fulfilled it. How much she's aware of any of this, I can't say. Should I feel bad for her? I cannot say that for sure either. But I do anyways, just because I'm a bleeding heart. I'm just going to come right out and say it. I'm not sure if Laura is a living person or someone of fiction. There's plenty of meat on the bone to say she's real. She has a letter that's from Mary's nurse. She clearly knew Mary. She also said that she just turned 8, and that makes time pretty incongruous here. It's very possible that it's not been 3 years since Mary's passing, since the only place you get that information is through James. A reliable narrator, he is not. Laura also merrily charges through the streets of Silent Hill, though. Now, obviously the monsters roaming the streets are a construct of the people in this town. Eddie, Angela, and James are all haunted by something specific, so that's why they have to fight the monsters. Laura's an innocent. Is that why she doesn't have to fear them? The good ending I got had James and her in the graveyard. Maybe that means he'll adopt her as Mary had intended to do? If so, I have to say, my kids have way less dirt on me, and it's hard enough to win an argument with them. If I had to take a stance, I would guess that she's in fact a living person who is in the hospital with Mary, but I could see it either way. It's easy to see her story doesn't line up with her wandering the streets of Silent Hill without a scratch. That's a bit convenient. Maybe that's why Maria is so motivated to find her, in spite of the fact that they never actually met one another. Maria is still part Mary, so if Mary loved her, then maybe that's why Maria is also so protective. Yeah, that checks out. Okay, I'm definitely on team Laura's a real child. I'm clearly thinking this through as I'm writing this, and I'm starting to think that anyone who made it this far is going to know I'm an idiot. It's hard to say how anyone would deal with having a loved one in Mary's condition. It's also pretty easy to understand how she could behave somewhat unreasonable at times. She also had to come to terms with her own mortality. Her form was no longer the one she wanted to present to her husband. James took her life. I said I believe partly that it was due to the stresses that her condition put on him, and partly it was due to the fact that he couldn't see his loved one in that condition. She was miserable. He was miserable. Whatever his motivations are, he was haunted by his lost love. I watched the other endings, and the letter is read in most of them. It's amazing, but the words on the letter never change, because the tone of the letter changes so much as you go through it. What's memorable about the note also changes. In my more hopeful ending, I focused on her wanting to be remembered by him. She ends with telling James he made her happy. If you got a less hopeful ending, you'll likely linger on her more negative thoughts of the sadness of coping with the death sentence, or her longing for his return and her feelings of abandonment. It's genius, really. You never meet Mary directly. Her letters and her occasional calls for James in game are the only actual encounters you have to go off of. I have pity and sadness for both Mary and James. It's obvious why someone would grieve for Mary. No one deserves her lot in life. I also grieve for James almost as deeply, though. Obviously, I wouldn't end baby girl's life in a similar situation. My wife is my rock, though. I can't imagine a world where I wouldn't have her next to me to help bear the cross of the day-to-day difficulties of life. I also can't imagine a world where such a vibrant woman would be reduced to a shell of herself. It's really easy to blame James for his actions. If he just stood by his poor wife's side, then the events of the game would never have transpired. His actions shouldn't be condoned, but I think they're easily understood. The fact that he's tormented in such a way makes it clear that he is devastated by his loss. Nothing is more apparent than the simple fact that he cares. It's just fucking sad, man. I am so good with words sometimes. When you finish the game, you can now look upon the events of the story with different eyes. It makes me question, which thing is of James' design and what's just the nature of Silent Hill? The meat locker with Eddie is a good example. Seems pretty clear that James has stumbled into Eddie's world in that moment, just like he will later do when he stumbles into Angela. I can admit freely that there are small intricacies that I'm sure I've missed. I feel like I was a thorough explorer. The thing is that, like, many of the poignant moments of this game really hit different when you think about the message in between the words. Because of how important this game was for many people and how old the game is, it's been scrutinized to pieces. There are probably clear and obvious answers for some of the things I didn't piece together. I didn't want to make a Silent Hill 2 complete story type video for this because I didn't have the complete story. I still have lingering questions about certain things that likely have different answers elsewhere. In the process of making videos, I've discovered that I tend to favor open-ended stories. I enjoy it when the package isn't wrapped up neatly with a bow on it. And I like it when you're left to speculate on the meaning of a moment or a character's ultimate fate. This game is that feeling personified to me. I found it fun to be my own detective and try and solve the mystery of the true events of the game. Part of the challenge of having a game world that's essentially multiple versions of several people's different own personal hell is that you don't always know which personal hell you're even in at a given time. You can't take any one event at face value. What is real to whom at this moment? It's more fun to finish the game and try and piece those puzzle pieces together on your own. Having lingering questions also means lingering thoughts, and this game will linger. I'm sure I'm gonna get lots of comments explaining plot points, and I welcome them. I dare not scare off those that actually listen to my ill-informed drivel and actually care to participate. I was intimidated by this one, but I also wanted to keep it as authentic as possible from my perspective. I said in the beginning I didn't have a plan for this video, I just wanted to talk about the game. My short summary would be as such. Silent Hill 2 is a game from 2001 that has a lasting appeal because it features incredible sound design, a haunting aesthetic, and a story that will stand the test of time because the subject matter itself is timeless. I can see why many people would take the time to analyze what made it so good, since I just did it and I have a lot of scraps left on the cutting room floor. It's been a while since I complimented the audio, since the second half of my video kind of naturally devolved into a study of the story and characters. Do not forget that the audio in this game is preem. Good songs when the moment needs it, strange diegetic sounds that'll make you get your hackles up when that's required as well. It's brilliance. I enjoyed my time with Silent Hill 2, and I can easily recommend it to anyone with an interest and a computer to play it on, or an old PS2. But don't pay $100 for that Beast Lord. Come on, those people are crazy. I saw a listing for $110 disc only on eBay. Straight trippin'. Look, I paid $50 for my PS3 copy of Nier Gestalt in the height of the Nier Automata craze. I'm not here to judge, but come on, it ain't worth it, player. Thank you for stopping by. I appreciate all of you. Also, did you know that 95% of the people that watch my videos aren't subscribed? No, I'm just playing with you. See you guys. Bye.